Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Moonlight Zone. Welcome back to those who are following this channel, and welcome those who are new to this channel. Today I'm with my niece, Elsie, who's going to be helping me with questions because two things. We've been working on making changes to the show in terms of questions that are going to be asked to me in order to render responses that are going to help our viewers and our fans. And also another thing that I can mention is that we haven't been posting videos because we wanted to upgrade our show and bringing equipment that is going to help us deliver a quality show and message on our channel. Now today we're going to discuss one of the many topics that we'll be discussing moving forward and in the future, but today we're going to discuss my childhood. Now I know a lot of people have gone through many issues. It's not just me. People have been going through hardships in their lives, whether it's in Africa, America, Asia, Europe, anywhere in the world. People have been experiencing issues, poverty, or any other issue that keeps you from achieving your goals. The goal here, the reason why we're discussing my childhood is not to let you know what I went through because you might have gone through the same issue, but the main message is that certain people are not capable of discussing those issues they went through. My main message is to encourage you through my tell-all, pretty much, through my message and saying what I went through as a person from when I was a kid up to now. Maybe it's going to inspire you, maybe it's going to encourage you and give you hope that everything is going to be great. Not right away maybe, but the message is to keep you going and continue to believe that you're not here to suffer. Things are gonna go well in your life eventually. Now I'm gonna give the floor to my niece Elsie to ask me questions regarding my childhood. Remember, we're discussing childhood today, but in the future we have topics from my childhood that we're gonna discuss today. Education, messages on career, marriage, diaspora, friendship, family, and many other topics that we're gonna explore later. But the main message, even though you can hear that it's involving a lot of topics, but the main message is going to be the inspiration or the encouragement on mental health and the encouragement on how to become a better you in order to be able to navigate all these topics, all these subjects in your life. Now I'm giving the floor to Elsie for questions.
My first question is, who would you say you are in general?
In general, I am a very happy man. I am a married man. I'm a father of one, and I'm happy to say that I also have another child on the way. My daughter Skylar is very incredible. She gives me hope that my future is gonna be even way better than my present. So we're expecting a baby boy, and that is going to be even better. And I'm a guy who is always happy. I'm a married guy. I'm a father. I'm a husband. And in general, I'm a hardworking man who went through lessons of life, and that's how I would pretty much characterize myself.
Okay. Where are you from and where were you born?
Originally, I'm from Rwanda. For those who don't know, Rwanda East African country, located right next to the DRC, Uganda, Tanzania, and Burundi. It's a country that is one of the most prosperous countries in the world right now, and I'm very proud to be Rwandan. As far as being born, I was born in Uganda from refugee parents that fled the country due to political complications and conflicts, and went to Uganda. That is where I was born.
Can you tell us about the type of problem this program or service will solve, and how does sharing your life experience contribute to all of us, me and everyone watching?
The purpose of this whole initiative is not just to tell people about my life, because I know everybody went through some kind of a problem, and the only difference is that most people don't feel courage to talk about their lives for many reasons. Um, I'm talking about my life because I would like to inspire um, any kid who's listening to me right now in the world, in any country, any environment, any countryside, any rural area, any city, any outskirt of whatever city it is in the world. Um, just to encourage that kid that if I'm talking about certain issues, I'm not being vulnerable or I'm not being weak. I'm simply trying to provide that message because so far I've gotten to a point where I'm very happy in my life. I've overcome a lot, and I've gotten to a point that I'm very happy in my life to overcome anything right now, and I'm trying to relay that message and encourage people to discuss their issues, or to even try to talk to their loved ones or their close friends or classmate or whoever, just to kind of cope with that, because it serves as a mental health therapy, and that's the main message, because it helped me a lot, because I discussed, with people, got to a point where I really cried. I couldn't sleep, but here I am today. I'm discussing it without any problem, and if I had any problem, it will still be a healing process, and pretty much that's what the message is. And moving forward, I think that this process is going to help a lot of people in terms of self-confidence, dealing with mental health, dealing with anything else that's getting in their way, to lose hope, or to even feel like they're constricted in one area and they can't move forward.
Alright, now we all know that we usually have issues talking about private lives, or sometimes even avoid talking about it because most of the people think it's showing a vulnerability. What made you decide to share your life experience with everyone?
It's exactly almost the same thing as I was saying, because at one point when I was a kid, I used to cry all the time, because of not knowing my father, not meeting my father, not knowing what he looked like, and I would cry all the time, and I would be teased by other kids and other people in the community that I was like a fatherless kid, or a bastard, and that used to really make me lose hope in myself, or even confidence. So pretty much I decided to talk about this because I wanted this to be my strength instead of my weakness. And talking about your issues is not um, being weak. I know people are different. I also maybe found courage recently to talk about this. I wasn't always like this, but I just want to tell people that discussing your issues, it doesn't matter how you discuss those issues, who you discuss them with, but discussing your issues is not weakness, and it's not like failure. Now it depends on the community. Culturally, people think that if they discuss with other people their issues, maybe they're gonna just listen to them and know about their problems and not even help them. But then it's kind of like taking advantage of their vulnerability. So to each his own, but I think that discussing your issues serves as a mental, therapy. To a point where you can actually achieve or overcome any type of issue, any type of problems that you encounter in your life.
All right. Now, how would you say your childhood was?
My childhood in general was kind of messed up, to say the least. And I'm saying that because of many reasons. I'm a person who chooses to keep a positive energy, a positive side, as opposed to, dwelling on the negative. But I definitely have to recognize that my childhood was messed up, not in terms of being like physically abused or anything, but emotionally abused, and living in poverty, not having anything I wanted. I didn't have anything actually. Like I said, I mentioned before that I didn't know my dad. Never met my dad, and that has always affected me. Every time you go to school with other kids, other kids talking about their parents, talking about what they do for them. Every time writing on the documents, your both of your parents' names, and mine will be just crossed out in terms of in the spot where my dad's name should be written. I will kind of hide that those kind of documents, because I didn't want anybody to see that, because for me it was like some kind of failure, really. I got to a point where I felt like maybe I was a mistake, being born. Every time people would call me a bastard, or I would feel like I was illegal. Pretty much that's what it felt like. But eventually, I learned, as I grew up, I learned how to cope with that, how to deal with that, even though it was still painful. But, also growing up with, in poverty, going to school, almost 25 miles away on foot, in marshlands and forests and mountains, it wasn't the coolest thing to do. Sleeping on, this is very interesting. I mean, a lot of people think that I was born privileged. If you saw me, you would think, this guy was born in, great family. He never suffered. He never had any problem. He slept in a fancy house. He was, being driven around and stuff like that. Would you believe me if I told you that as far as sleeping, I would, at the time I lived at my grandmother's house when I was a kid. I would literally sleep on, I don't know if you guys know, like, it's like a dried out weed that's picked in the field after, cultivating the field. So every time we will have guests and I couldn't sleep, on the regular bed. Actually, regular bed was also messed up, but at least it was a bed. So culturally, you would just see like somebody just dropping by like 7 p.m. As a guest and expecting to spend the night, especially if it's an older person that you give respect to, then you will, just find another way or somewhere else to sleep. So, we will go in the field, find dried out, grass pretty much, and just put like a mat on top of it, and cover yourself with like a just little blanket and call it a day. As far as food, it was. I used to go actually in the field to look for sweet potatoes. Just to fetch for sweet potatoes myself, and bring them, wash them, put in the pot, and cook on. It wasn't like an oven. It was like a three kind of three looking stone-ish, made out of clay, and just cooked with like a wood. And so that's the type of life that I had. Fetching water was miles away. That's the kind of childhood I had. I'm not complaining, because in some way or another, it helped me become focused and workaholic, and disciplined, and knowing what I want in life. So in general, my childhood wasn't as positive, but I got some positive energy out of the whole suffering.
Now, who raised you?
I was raised by my grandmother. She's the one who raised me ever since I can remember. I was very, very young. So she's the one who raised me until I went to secondary school.
Where were your parents?
As I mentioned earlier, I never met my dad. I was born in Uganda, and my mom, got remarried, and that took a couple years before she got remarried. So I couldn't really go live with my mother because of my stepfather, who didn't really feel me, that way. I just wanted to. I didn't even have any type of decision, in that process. But I grew up knowing that he wasn't. He didn't like me. His family didn't like me, and I didn't find out until later. And because the whole time I was wondering, I would wonder why I would like share food with maids and all that kind of stuff. But that's a different story. But bottom line is that I couldn't live with my mother because of the stepfather, who didn't tolerate me at all. Who showed me, many times actually, that he didn't want me around even as a kid, and that stayed with me.
Alright, now I know you've talked about your childhood, your hardships, but what would you say was the hardest thing to deal with when you were growing up?
Uh, Absolutely living without a father. Uh, Even sometimes I will get to a point where it's fine. I'm grown up. I'm a grown up now. I don't care about not having a dad. You know what I mean? I can care about just taking care of my family. But you can't help but think about what it will be like to share all these moments with your father. So even to this point, that's what still you know kind of affects me a little bit, um, but not in a bad way. I just try to use it as a motivation to take care of my family and raise my kids, and I don't look at it like as a disadvantage anymore, just like I used to before. So growing up, that was what I would say was like a burden, because I got teased a lot, because of that.
So, going through all those hardships, poverty, lack of a role model, your father, support system, your mother sometimes, what kept you positive? What kept you going on, not giving up?
Um, you know what kept me focused? I mean, it's a few things. First, I was really, even though when I was in school, I did I really didn't even know what homework was. I didn't even know that you get out of school and the the just revise your notebooks and do homework, whatever. I didn't know that all that existed. Um, but I was still good. I was still really good in school. I remember I used to come second, and probably because I wasn't good at math, which even now is still the case. At least I can count, but um, that's what kept me positive. Maybe it would have been different if I wasn't good in class. You know what I mean? Uh, but it kept me motivated to see what's next, what's gonna be next, what's ahead. And once I grew up, then it became motivation of trying to get a career or go to nice schools because of scholarships and stuff. So that's what kept me motivated up until up to this point. I'm still going to school, so I'm still motivated. It's just the same as I was before.
How did your childhood affect the or contribute to your adulthood or even your marriage?
Um, so much the I will probably talk about how my childhood affected my adulthood. You know, Affecting is not necessarily negative, but so it contributed to wise decision making, working hard, never feeling like you are in a safe spot. Just because you're being successful today doesn't mean that you should stop working. You should keep working, especially because you're not, just by yourself anymore. You got family. You know, Even if I've gotten to a point where I can say I'm better off than I was before, I still work hard and I still sit down and find time to think about what I can do next, what I can do tomorrow, what can I do to make my life even a little bit more flexible in a way that I can become more independent and conduct some lucrative moves that can lessen maybe financial burden so that I can spend more time with my family. In my opinion, I think my childhood affected adulthood in a positive way in general, because I've learned how to look at things in a positive way. So as far as how it affected my marriage, I would say I've kind of gone through lessons in my marriage. Um, this is my second marriage, and I can guarantee you it's gonna be my last one. My last one because it's gonna last. That's I just want you guys to, to let that sink in. It's gonna last, and it's gonna be the last one because it's gonna last. So my first one didn't work out. Was previously married for about 6, almost 7 years, and didn't work out for different reasons that we're gonna come back to in our marriage session. And otherwise, I've been with my wife for about 6 years now. So I'm very happy. And like I said earlier, I got my daughter Skylar. We have our boy on the way, and my wife is due around November 20th. I can't be happier, and I'm actually here because of being happy, and that's why I wanted to talk about all these issues and all this journey, and to show you how I contributed to who I am today, and you can do that too.
So there is maybe a child watching this video and maybe going through the same thing. What would you give that child? Like, what would you advise the kid going through the hardships today?
I would say I'm looking at myself in the mirror because I was that kid before. And I would say that the future is brighter than your present. And just not to let the past or the present ruin what that kid, is working hard for. And the future is gonna be better. Because here's the thing, people shouldn't just feel like everybody can on this earth to fail. That's really what guided me. I just knew I was gonna make it, but I didn't know how. And I would just be tell that kid to invest in themselves and anywhere they can, but maybe focus on your school. Don't drop out because you don't think you're gonna be somebody, because I was you yesterday, and tomorrow you're gonna be somebody very influential in the world.
Now, what would you tell to an adult going the same issues?
Therapy is one of the most expensive things to go through because only a few people can afford that. So the least you can do is find somebody to confide in, talk to, whether it's family or friends. Or if you can, don't talk to that person, but find a way or something to do to keep your life positive and avoid negative energy. And avoid it from ruining your family, the way you interact with your kids or your wife or your significant other. Just make sure you know how to separate both. And we're here sitting here, just talking about all of this. I'm giving you my testimony, about my childhood, and I can guarantee you that I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't even find courage to discuss this if it wasn't, you know, how I decided to, look at this in a positive way and share with people, not just people, but people that I would like to see become better and hopeful and successful.
Now they are new parents, just like you. You have a kid, a 1 year old, and there is future parents listening to you today. What would you give them as an advice? What would they motivate them to keep going, not to give up? Give them a message.
Parents like me, or whether they're new or
future parents, parents like you.
Yeah. I would say don't let issues that you went through, cloud your judgment or get in the way of how you interact with your kids, or things are done differently, and don't use problems or issues that you went through to ruin what you got going on with your family, your kids especially. That's what I would say.
And as a parent and an adult today, what would you tell to the kid that you once were in your childhood?
I would say that the future is brighter, and there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Problems don't last long, and if they do, it's not just the end of the world. We find a way. We fall and we get back up, and that kid should believe that the future is gonna be great.
Okay, and to crown it all, what is your regret in your life experience, and would you even change a thing about your childhood, the way you've lived, the hardships? Would you change a thing?
First of all, I don't have any regret about my life. I told you, maybe some, things that sounded really bad that I went through, like some horrible experience, but I don't regret anything about my life because all those things made me who I am today, and I will not change anything about myself today. Remember, it comes down to self-confidence and loving yourself. So I love myself, and I love you, whoever is going through all these issues and you can't find a solution. But I'm very confident, and I love myself. I love who I am today. I'm very happy, and I'm thankful to my family. I will definitely not change a thing about who I am today.
Yeah, that was all the questions I have today. Thank you for keeping up.
Thank you, Elsie. Thank you, everybody, for keeping up with us, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and make sure you hit that bell because you want to be the first to be notified when we come back with another topic out of the topics that I mentioned. And you who are going through all these issues, whether you're a child, whether you're an adult who can't seem to go, anywhere or get out of those issues mentally, just know God loves you, and your friends and family members love you, and you will eventually get out of those. And find courage to talk to somebody, and find courage to believe that tomorrow, there's always hope, and you are worth more than you think. Thank you so much. It was your boy Moonlight. Stay safe.